Norik, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, kick it off, man. What's up, everybody? What's up? The only thing I love kicking it off, but I forgot what episode we're on.
26.
26.
Yeah. Hey, we're on episode 26.
Yeah. Feels like we've been doing this way longer.
Soundflick podcast.
Yeah.
You already know it's some Soundflick boys. Right. Back live via Zoom.
Remotely.
It's your boy Norik. Thascool.
Skywalker Mike.
Young Flacco Ace Sincere. What's up, guys?
Yeah. What's up, guys? So good to see you guys' faces.
Yeah.
Last time, we haven't seen each other in a little while. You know, there's a lot that's been going on in the world.
Oh, yeah.
We were just having Netflix parties about Tron.
Oh my gosh, that was the last episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the last episode.
Awesome movies and things that we were gonna compare and contrast and all this stuff, and then, damn it, the world went on fire and bullshit hit the fan.
Well, it was on fire already.
Exactly, it was already
somebody
on fire.
threw like gasoline on it.
They got kerosene, gasoline, a whole bunch of other unnecessaries thrown into the pit.
We thought 2020 was going to be crazy. We didn't realize 6 months in it was going to get turned upside down.
Yeah.
For good reason, though. This isn't anything to make light of what's going on.
Yeah.
But it was definitely, I think, with everything kind of rolled into one, whether it was COVID, whether it was a quarantine, and just everyone having a lot of time to themselves, the minute that something national happens, everyone really got to tune in, and they didn't have the excuse normally of, oh, I have work or I have these other obligations. Yeah. They really got to tune into what's going on. So everyone's opinions have been on maximum. All the information have been on maximum, and it's been a little wild out here, guys.
Yeah, there's been a lot of conversations being started. Even between the people that don't want to have the conversations, they're still having the conversations, online or with their family, with their friends at a kickback that they shouldn't even be at. But I mean, they're still happening regardless, whether it's a negative or positive conversation. It's needed, just to get the idea of what's going on, or get the ball rolling, like you said.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, one, I'm glad you guys are safe. Listeners, I'm glad you're safe as well. And I hope everybody's still taking proper precautions, because I know kind of like California opened up and now it's closing up again. I went to a sit-down restaurant for my grandparents' anniversary like last week. But it was like proper look, like everybody was like more than 6 feet apart. Every table were like spread apart, right? Everybody was wearing masks. Yeah. So, but it was different. It was just, obviously it's not the same. And I'm going to assume nothing's really going to go back to being the same anymore, which I'm kind of okay with. I don't mind saving money, staying home at all times.
Yeah.
When I need to go out, I need to go out. But also I'm back at work. So I'm interacting. Like you guys already know I was like antisocial for that 2 months. I was off work and just chilling. But people have no sense of like personal space still. And it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, they never kind of did, so it's a new learning process. A lot of people are still very stingy. Things changing, they like, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't wait till things go back to normal. It's a new normal type.
Right.
Thing. That's what you have to look at. But I mean, I think we'll get there. Maybe not this year, maybe not even next year, but it's going to be a process.
We're living in a giant Parks and Rec / Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. Because like, I feel like everything I see is like, I feel like it's unreal still, like the way some people interact and some people kind of address things.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I'm glad everybody's safe.
Yeah. It goes to show you just how many people have been living without thinking,
Right.
Like, yeah. Now it's kind of scary. You're kind of like, damn. Yeah. There's more people that are like, I guess you could say awake, but it's like, what were you guys doing the whole time?
What were you doing before? And like there was a lot of people that were just living unconsciously, and they were just consuming,
It was just like autopilot pretty much.
Exactly. And now we can't really move on autopilot anymore because it's dangerous to do so. And it's just crazy how a lot of people they still, we've always been an individualistic society. And, like with capitalism in the US and everything like that, it's very, you do for you. And if everyone does for you, then we're all good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay in theory. But when things hit the fan, then nobody knows how to do for others. And that's where you get all of these videos, all these Karen videos, all these people that are just acting out. Okay. And it's like real common sense, like just take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. But everyone just feels like they're above it, or they don't need to, or somebody else will do it for them, or somebody has to do it for them. And it's just crazy out here, man. There's a lot of weird interactions that I'm sure that we're all seeing on the internet, and that we've even had ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been in a lot of situations before where I didn't think about them the way I do now. I look back and I'm like, I can't believe I actually went through that and I'm still here, compared to a lot of other, people that aren't here with us anymore. But I mean, it's a scary world, and you don't really realize it until like right now. Like I said, a lot of people are awake, or a lot of people are realizing, wow, I didn't even know I was being, I guess you can say oppressed or being discriminated, at that moment. Mm-hmm. But, it's all coming to light and we're all realizing things we've never realized before. But like you said, it's a good thing. We need to wake up. Even I feel like it was getting to a point where it was gonna, like it was just gonna burst. I think with or without the quarantine, it was gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helped though.
Mm-hmm.
The quarantine helped everyone pay attention because these things have happened before, but most people have made the excuse that I'm too busy.
Right.
To do it, and the quarantine eliminated everyone's busyness. So now it's like, whoa, well, I'm not too busy. Now I have to pay attention to this. And depending on how prepared you were, is like how you're reacting to it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm sure some people, their world kind of just like imploded. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say being busy is like an excuse, but like you do get busy. You do get busy, especially if you have family, you have kids. Like you do get caught up in what you're doing at all times. So you don't really have time to pay attention to the news, you even have social medias. But then when you finally create a social media after, not doing anything, kind of see everything unravel. I'm sure for some people it's like, this is crazy.
No, I know for Twitter, a lot of people like recently joined Twitter and they're like, whoa, like what is this? Like it's crazy. There's so much you could do. There's so much you could talk about. There's so much going on. I mean, right now I feel like Twitter is kind of one of the places where a lot of people get a lot of their information.
Right.
But it's not their direct source, but it's kind of like the best way to hear things word of mouth, Yeah,
it's one of the social, like actual social medias, because there isn't an algorithm based on who you like follow, so to speak, like the information that you're getting from who you follow. Unlike Facebook or unlike Instagram, it's kind of tailored to what you've liked and what you haven't liked in order to get your information. But Twitter's very real time and very like in the now of everything that's happening.
Right.
So that's what makes it pretty,
I feel like
kind of get stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's very of the people as well. Especially all it takes is a retweet to just reach a couple hundred people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, with everything that's going on with the deaths of American citizens all across the country that has erupted in protests against basically the establishment, I wouldn't just say the government, but I think the system that has been in place in our society that has been in the background that has allowed America to be America and to run is now getting challenged by everybody who's in it, and so that's really where we're challenging the notion and the American dream of all men were created equal, and we're discovering that isn't the case, and that the systems that are in place are meant to keep certain groups and certain communities oppressed, Black communities, people of color, communities, immigrant communities, oppressed and unaware of information. And then on the flip side, the system is also meant to keep a lot of the communities that they champion unaware of these things as well. You know, they're trying to make sure and keep these unconscious people continuously unconscious. Like, you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to help this situation. And that's kind of where we're getting this this back and forth and this combative kind of feeling that we're having in America, of people on one side who didn't know that all of this was going on and thought that this was a one-off, or this was a specific case, or there was a reason for all the things that they heard before. And then you have, on the other hand, all the people who knew that this was going on and have been fed up, you know, and are just tired of this continuing to happen. And now, as the information is being given out, there are some people from this side that are joining this side, and there are some people from this side that hate the people on this side, and it's just like causing this whole
it's like a tornado. It's just like hot air and cold air, and it's just creates like this crazy ass wind and just blowing everything everywhere, you know, at all times. Who knows when it's gonna stop? But I mean, the only thing we can do is just keep moving forward, you know, like we said, we can't just wait for things to get back to normal, because they won't get back to normal.
We're lucky enough to have a community that kind of like, we have our group chat, you know what I mean? We have our community where we kind of tap in on certain things, and we're kind of there to kind of like not check each other, but like, if something needs to be said, it will be said with love, you know what I mean? And I think that's the thing I appreciate the most out of everybody that we know personally.
I don't think everybody needs that. You know, everyone needs community to be able, like, if you're listening, a group of friends that are diverse enough to give you not just force feed you opinions or force feed you what they think, but open-minded enough, and they love you enough to be able to have healthy debates and healthy conversations and look towards the betterment of your community and the humanity in general, then I think that's very, very useful. It helps you keep sane during these times.
I felt way better than when quarantine started. I kind of got back in my groove from like work, and then balanced that with music, being in sessions, Zoom calls. So I'm kind of like just ready to get back to work. And then obviously when I need to say something, or when I like actions need to be done, where like if my friends reach out to me, then like I kind of feel like now it's back to second nature. Like, okay, I'm ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of like in reprogram mode, just trying to really tackle.
Sorry.
just trying to see what I can tackle, how I could tackle it best I can, like with the knowledge and abilities that I know, you know, not trying to extend too far, just trying to do what I can, you know, best I can.
Yeah, you know, I think that's really what anybody's asking for. You know, it's just this is a time to do the best that you can. You can no longer be on the sidelines of this situation. This, you know, you have to be a part of the equation. You have to be a part of.
I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, like I don't really have nothing to contribute. You know, like I think if you can draw, you can make signs for people that are going to protest. If you can, if you're good at organizing, like help people put these together and put the details together. If you graphic design flyers, if you're a DJ, just like try to like do a stream and get money to donate. You know, there's so many different ways. If you could make snacks for people like that are going to protest, you know, there's so many different ways. It's not just about donating or signing these petitions. It's those things too, but it's a lot deeper, and people got to be a little bit more creative and trying to find ways in contributing, you know?
Yeah. And let's just be clear, you know, Black Lives Matter. We're a Soundflick podcast.
Every day.
All day.
And it is a humanity issue. This is not a political issue.
Yeah.
Now, our society is built off of politics, so there will be politics trying to take advantage of the issue. They want to co-opt the movement. They want to do all of these other things. They want to utilize it in order to get people on either side of the aisle. And the fact is that this is a humanity issue. This is about people being equal and having equal opportunity on this land. and all shades, all forms, all walks of life from every corner. And as long as our system does not allow that, then there are going to be people who are rebelling against the system. And now it's going beyond just, conspiracy theories and conversations with your friends over, while you're smoking weed or whatever. Like that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about actual actionable items on changing the system and identifying the things that ultimately, make it not true, ultimately make it false, ultimately, don't have it work at 100% as what the people before us thought that it was going to be. Our country has grown from before 1776 when, a certain group of people came over here and laid claim to what was going on, and they thought that what they wrote was law. And there are people who believe that for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it no longer applies, it no longer applies in the same type of way. And it has to get tweaked in a certain in different types of ways. And we are finally at that point in society where enough people give a damn to start making those changes happen. So this isn't going to end anytime soon, because we are in the middle of a revolution, and the revolution is being televised on Twitter.
Yeah. But most importantly, one of the things I do want to plug real quick is go register to vote.
Yes.
I think I have a link in my bio, Skywalker Mike _ to register to vote. Brick to Your Face also has a link. That's probably one of the most important things, but obviously we need to, campaign before that. I guess not politically, but campaign for what we really want before we get to that. And during this time. So, but yeah, I just wanted to plug that real quick.
Yeah. One piece too that someone shared, if you know who you're voting for, make sure you register to vote under whatever Democratic Party they're in, or Republican Party. Yeah, no matter what party they're in. Yeah. Yes, because you don't want to put that you don't know. Otherwise, your vote's invalid, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I learned that last year. Last time.
That's another work of the system, to make sure that they skew what needs to happen. They know that voting is a fundamental right of everybody born in this country, but they will do things like that in order to prevent your vote from actually counting, because people, again, are trying to co-opt the politics, and they're trying to change the system in a certain way. And so we have to do our duty as citizens to really educate ourselves and vote and do different things like that. And it's just so imperative, like a lot of times, and I come from that kind of generation too, with the internet and people finding out that voting has been rigged and all these different things where it's like, oh man, your vote doesn't matter. I can't tell you how many times like I've grown up and even felt strongly about that at a certain point in my life, early when I was able to vote, when I turned 18 and turned 19, I was just kind of like, I'm gonna just vote for the president. I'll just do Obama and
right.
But realizing that you have a duty to your own community, not even the presidency, but just your community. Who's your chief of police? Who's your secretary? Who's your representative, your House representative? All these other things that people are in charge of. They're really in charge of making decisions for your life that alter how much money you have, how much police are in your community, how many public services you have, all these different things. And they count on us to not be aware of them, and to confuse one another into thinking that it doesn't matter in order for them to control it. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing I will say is that if all of us do what we have to do, and let's just say that it's still rigged,
right,
then now we have a culprit. Yeah. Now we know exactly who our enemy is and what is happening if all of us do our part. But we haven't been able to do that as yet. We haven't been able to get everyone together to do it and then them look us dead in the eye and say, oh, well, this doesn't count, or this doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, if we're able to catch them red-handed in what they're doing, then we can make a difference. But the more that we're bickering amongst ourselves, the more they count on that, so that, you know, we confuse ourselves and they just slip things underneath, and, you know, it just happens for us. And we're just kind of like, oh, well, yeah, the police budget went up 3%, but I don't really care. Well, you know, that 3% has just armed your police with riot gear. So, you know, and they're the ones that cause that welt that's on your head because you got hit while you were protesting peacefully. And so it's those kinds of things that we have to start playing the long game, you know, when it comes to our society. And our society, it's difficult because they've groomed us to go for instant satisfaction. All of our inventions are not for the long game. All of our inventions have been for instant satisfaction. We're going to give you a phone that has all of the tools necessary so that you can get everything instantly. We're going to give you a microwave that makes your food instantly. We're going to give you DirecTV and Netflix and streaming, so it gives you everything instantly. And we think it's great, but the issue is that teaches us not to know how to do the long game, how to invest, how to do all of these other things that are necessary for generations to change, you know, and for us to actually see that change. And that's something that I hope that with everything that's going on, people are starting to wake up to.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I definitely want to talk about this a lot more, you know, more podcasts, you know, bring people on and discuss it with them and their opinions or different subject matters and stuff like that. I mean, like you said, we have a long way to go,
right? And
it doesn't stop here.
Lastly, I mean, iron sharpens iron. So, like, I mean, being around you guys, like knowing you guys as long as I've known you, like, we teach each other things all the time. We learn something new every day. So I'm lucky enough and blessed enough to be able to be a part of a community that provides those things to me, rather than, like, I grew up not knowing anything about politics, not knowing about anything about local politics. Like, it plays a huge part of who you are and, like, where, like, what your home is. So, yeah.
I definitely want to highlight, I had talked to you guys highlighting a lot of, like, Black artists or, you know, Black like creativity that's just going on right now in the movie and entertainment industry. There's a few things, you know, not a lot of people are dropping music, or obviously not a lot of movies are dropping in theaters. So, but there is some movies on Netflix that recently came out by a very prominent director named Spike Lee. Everybody knows about Spike Lee. He's like the Black Tarantino, pretty much. And he just came out with a movie on Netflix. I didn't even see this coming, you know, like, I didn't see trailer. It was probably going to come out in theaters, and he's like, go to Netflix. He's like, he took the Scorsese route. He's like, Scorsese did it, I could do it.
Right.
And I think Scorsese has another movie coming out too, but that's different.
Yeah, I think it was part of the deal. I don't think it was just one movie that was going to go direct to streaming. And that's something that's powerful that Netflix kind of has. And even some of these other streaming sites as well, Hulu, Amazon, like, directors and actors are now starting to just work with them, like, directly, instead of going to all these movie studios. And it's been beneficial because even before COVID hit or the quarantine,
it was kind of moving in that direction.
Yeah, it was kind of moving to that direction, you know. But with this all happened, this only added more fuel to the fire of saying, well, what if we're unable to go to movie theaters anymore? We have to now create content that will stream well, and that, you know, and that will you know, again, back to the direct and immediate.
It's crazy. So before we go on with Spike Lee, I remember we mentioned one time, like, Netflix on the theater, you know, and showing movies there. I feel like after this quarantine, a lot of theaters are going to be going out of business or stuff like that. I feel like Netflix or, you know, some streaming site might step in and be like, hey, maybe we'll buy a few of your theaters, you know, and see where that goes. But I mean, we got to see what happens. That's just kind of a theory that I have, you know.
We talked briefly about Amazon acquiring AMC. You know, and what that would mean, you know. It's a easy brand, you know, transition of, you know, letters are already there.
Yeah.
And the technology that would be implemented, as well as being a Prime member and the different perks that would come with being a Prime member, or it just seems like an automatic sell. So I'm wondering, as soon as it's safe and comfortable to go into the movie theater, where we might see a lot of that happening. I think the traditional Regal and AMC and Edwards and Cinemark, Skinemax, no, Cinemark, are going to, they're going to have to make some decisions, and they may actually sell to a lot of these streaming companies.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. But yes, we are going to be highlighting a lot more Black artists, a lot more artists of color, just moving forward with the things that we talk about, because their contribution will no longer be submerged. So today we are going to be talking about Spike Lee's new movie that he dropped on Netflix, starring Chadwick Boseman. It is called Da 5 Bloods.
Yes. Not just Chadwick Boseman. Here, let me pull up the cast. It's funny that like the trailers show him. Like,
but he's not really in it. He's not really in it.
That was going to be my first critique. I was like, why was he even in it? Like, you could have casted any other like regular actor and not have the star power that Chadwick Boseman, carries with him because of the Marvel movies and because Jackie Robinson and different.
Right. Yeah.
And it's still been fine, But I was reading that there was a cast that he wanted before this. Like, he wanted Samuel L. Jackson to be in it. He wanted Denzel Washington to be in it. Like, it was supposed to be this huge Black actor cast. And
but you know what? I still like the actors that were chosen. Like, they're not. I mean, they're known. Well, some of them are known. Some of them are not too well known. But they really, I think they fit really well.
Their chemistry, yeah, that was the first thing when I first watched the movie. I was like, "Yo, this chemistry is."
It seemed like just a bunch of uncles just coming together after the war. Going back to get what's rightfully theirs.
I think I loved it even more that the fact that they didn't hire younger actors either to play their younger selves, to portray them younger selves.
Yeah, they just kind of put a little bit of makeup.
That was an interesting critique, I think, for a lot of people I was reading. Some people were kind of upset at the fact that, like artistically, we were trying to go back in time to see this thing happening, but to have them as old as they are in the back in time scene, it was kind of like confusing for a lot of people who were watching. And I personally felt like I kind of get it. I feel like it was more of like a psyche type thing, like like the way that they view themselves, like they still
that's how I saw it.
You know what I mean? Like they still feel like that they're in Vietnam, even though that they're like upwards of 50, or 60 years old. They're like, I'm still a soldier at heart. I can still go as hard as I did when I was 19, 20, 21. And we kind of see that throughout the movie with the different things that they try and do.
Yeah, especially because they're more like flashbacks rather than it cut to like an actual scene of that taking place. You know what I mean? So rather than us viewing it, we're kind of viewing it from like their eyes and their flashback, and them just viewing themselves. So
no, I really love the flashbacks, like because it changed the camera. What is it? The ratio of the screen. So it was like widescreen when it's in the current time, and then it goes back to flashback, and I think it's like it's just square. Like I forget what the ratio is called, but it's like 80s film, like Super 8 type.
It reminded me of like a black exploitation film, like like the 70s kung fu.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like, and then it also reminded me of how people viewed, because we weren't old enough at that time, but how people viewed the Vietnam War when they were able to watch it, because it was the first war that was televised. And people were actually able to see the carnage that was going on, and it wasn't censored. And, people were getting killed, and you see babies getting killed, and you see women getting killed right in front of you on the TV screen. And it was, I'm sure that was just, the effects of that don't really get talked about because America doesn't like to talk about its losses. They
don't even claim it as a loss. That's
crazy, right?
So dumb. It's like, you guys lost. Like there was really no reason for us to be over there, you know. That's the thing about like war movies. That's what it really shows you. Like these are regular people who were just sent to some random country hoping that we win, you know. Like it's and not only that, it not only is just sending Americans, they were sending a lot of black people because they're like, well, if we're gonna fight this war, we're gonna send these people first, and if they die, they die, and then we'll send our good ones in because you know all the cannon fodder will already be done. So,
and you know, I always like I never really put two and two together, but anytime that they would talk about white people in the war from old, it would always be World War II veterans.
mm-hmm.
It would always be World War II, like, you know, some super old dude, like, you know, wearing World War II veteran type thing. But then whenever they talked about black veterans, it was always more current. It was always Vietnam veterans, you know, it was always like or the Korean War veterans. And it's just like, I didn't put it together, but as black people were getting more free in this country, they used them to be more expendable as the wars continued.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's just really fucked up because I mean, even in the movie, there's a scene. We'll fast forward a little bit. There's a scene where they're listening to the radio, and it's the Vietnam radio. The 5 soldiers are just sitting around, and she's announcing that America had just assassinated Martin Luther King, and they're over here like, why are we fighting this war? You know, if they're over there they're killing our own kind. Like they don't care about us. They're just using us just for cannon fodder, you know. And that's when Chadwick Boseman was like, no, we have to just finish this fight that we have over here, and then when we're done, we'll go over there and we'll fix that too, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously that didn't happen you know, as they wanted it to, but I mean, like, we're still fighting that war today, you know. It's, I mean, not the Vietnam War, but you know, in the movie itself, they always say too, like, the war never ends. Like, there's always a war in your head, you know. And I mean, that's kind of what we're going through right now. It never ended.
It's still continuing to this day.
Yeah,
I think it's super interesting how, like, where the disconnect was. And this is something that we may not know. Like, we have to probably talk to Vietnam vets about. But it's like, when they did come back, like, was the fight out of them in that sense? Like, were they just tired? And the people who were being born didn't have the same aggressive nature because they weren't a part of that war.
mm-hmm.
You know, like, I think back to, like, or were soldiers that Chadwick Boseman was supposed to portray, did they just end up dying while they were out there so they couldn't come back to lead? You know, because I'm wondering, like, where did the leaders go? And then you kind of get into systematic and societal things, like the crack era kind of came right after the Vietnam War, you know, was back. And, like, just the way that they flooded the streets with crack and cocaine, and they got people addicted to drugs during the 80s, and then the war on drugs. And I'm sure that affected, because we had some of the soldiers who had prescriptions to Oxycontin and different things helping them. I don't think that the war on drugs excluded that. You know what I mean? So you have these people that weren't being afforded the drugs that they needed, or that were addicted to the drugs that they had, and the cycle just kind of continued.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I was gonna mention something. I kind of wanted to just kind of go through the movie, the timeline. Right off the beginning, obviously, it shows them in the war, and then I think they find gold. So it's another Netflix movie, kind of like about mercenaries. You know, I don't know. Netflix loves like their mercenary war movies for some reason, but they find gold. The gold is for the Vietnam, or I think the Vietnam soldiers that are helping America. Mm-hmm. America was going to pay them, but they didn't want cash, so they were paying them in gold. A plane crashed in the jungle. the Five Bloods came across it, and they said, we're going to bury this and we're going to come back for this, you know, in a few years. They bury it, and then it goes to, I think, current times. I think they're finally in Vietnam again without Chadwick Boseman. And one of the first things that really caught my attention is, I think it's Paul Delroy Lindo. He's wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that right there is like, it's very current. Obviously, the movie takes place in 2020, and then it goes back to the 70s in Vietnam. But I mean, what's your guys' take on that just alone, like that little detail that Spike Lee wanted to put in? Because obviously the president in the movie too is Trump. They mentioned it.
It's like if it's happening now.
Yeah.
War kind of takes its toll on certain people, man. Like especially Delroy's character. Even they said, like, even after he left the war, like, he wasn't the same. So he deals with nightmares. He deals with getting ghosts coming to him every night, and he deals with that every day. But like, if that's what he believes in, like, he made that comment too, like, I'm trying to keep the immigrants and the communists out of my country, so like build the wall, or like when they're in the bar.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of glad Spike added it because it kind of shows that even though they're all fighting for the same thing, they might not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I feel you. I mean, I didn't hate it. It was just very interesting, you know, because it was unexpected for them to even bring up Trump or MAGA or anything like that. You know, I thought all the current stuff was going to be like actually left out, but no. I mean, I haven't watched too many Spike Lee joints, but I mean, that was very interesting. You know, that there's black people out there, and I mean, there's even Mexican people out there that voted for Trump, and it's very confusing. You know,
the reality is that just because you are, it's just so complex.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're oppressed or you're of a certain community, doesn't mean that you don't agree with the ideals that a certain person has. You know, there are a lot of black people who are very proud of this country, even though that this country is notorious for the atrocities that have happened to black people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do believe that this country, you know, that they are born here, which they are, and that they are Americans, and that anybody who's trying to thwart their freedom is an enemy. You know, even if they aren't being treated well here. And that's kind of the PTSD that Paul was kind of going through, is that like he supports the troops. He supports America going to places and imposing their will because he believes that America is right. And I think he's also saddened by the treatment of soldiers when they go back to America. You know, and just like that kind of issue, he feels like as a soldier, you are above a lot of things. And like and as you represent your country, any president that's representing that as well, he's rocking with, you know, that's like one of his major issues. He doesn't care from a humanity perspective because he's kind of had his humanity taken from him, you know, by going to war. Like, he's like, fam, I'm out here killing people. I will take your life like in a heartbeat. And that the country is what's more important than the individual. And I think that's kind of like, that was an interesting thing that that Spike Lee decided to show, because there are black people who are like that. There are black people. They're not just all paid actors. Like, yes, I do believe
there's some
that happens for sure, you know, because people will do things for money. But there are people who do, who are, you know, there are black people who are Republicans. There are black people who support any president that is supporting the troops, because what they've gone through, they feel so misrepresented when they come back, that any president that's like, yeah, I'm for you, I'm trying to make sure that you're funded, I'm trying to make sure that you have the things needed, and that sound like their own drill sergeants or sound like the people that were in authority over them, they're already they're already molded to fit that. You know, it doesn't matter what your color of skin is at that time, you know, as long as you look at me as a soldier. And I think another thing is that a lot of the racism didn't necessarily, it happened on the battlefield, but I think that when you're in battle with somebody, you kind of throw that shit out the window. You know, it's like, yo, my life is in danger. Your life is in danger. I don't care if you're black or white. We're about to take out this enemy that's trying to kill both of us.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you get back to reality, then it's kind of like, oh, now you're seeing something. You know, I know a lot of soldiers who, like, they feel that they aren't racist because they've been able to fight alongside their brothers and sisters who were of a different color or of a different race than them for a cause. So they're like, no, it's impossible for me to be that way. Unfortunately, when you come back into the country that you were fighting for, not everybody has had that experience. Not everyone has, like, because, you know, trauma brings people together.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you save any of these racist women, like, or racist men that we've seen, I say women just because there's a lot of Karens and things like that just with media that have been being shown. So I don't mean to imply that it's just women, but whenever you see these types of things, I often think, what if I saved one of their lives? Like genuinely just save their life. Like there was a car coming and I pushed them out of the way and saved their life. I think at that moment, they wouldn't see that I'm just a black person, that they were just yelling all these obscenities about and wanting to hurt. They would see, wow, the person just saved my life.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. Yeah. I recently saw a picture of, it was at a protest. I think some people were beating up this white dude and he got really injured. And there was a group of black dudes that picked him up, put him on their shoulders and was trying to take him to like ambulance. And it's like, damn, like, even though this guy was probably there, like disrupting, yelling obscenities and, you know, like just being foul, you guys just ended up putting him on your shoulders because he's hurt, you know, like, and who knows, maybe that guy's opinion was changed after that. He's like, damn, like these guys really picked me up and saved me from all these, and from this mob, you know, but
we're hoping that what that does is that changes it for people to understand that it's a humanity issue. We don't want people's humanity to be compromised.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want people getting killed because everybody has dreams. Everybody's a father. Everybody's a mother. Everybody's a brother or sister or uncle or aunt. And that's just like something that you inherently know. Like if you felt that way, then I can feel that way. And sometimes we get bombarded with media that confuses that, you know, or makes us feel like that it's on this political thing. And people act upon that. And when they're acting upon that, you can kind of tell whether it's rooted in actual evil or whether it's rooted in confusion. And I think a lot of the times it's rooted in confusion. And that's the gamble that you take whenever you try and save somebody or try and help somebody or have a conversation with somebody, is that it's just rooted in confusion. Like you don't know that I am a brother to you as well because we are human beings in our, you know, in our society. Yeah. And we're going through the same types of things. Like a lot of people that I see, they're like, oh, like I'll never understand like what black people go through or how, like, you can understand anger. You can understand sadness. Like those are emotions that you feel too. Black people don't have this extra sensory emotion that just comes out. It's like,
no sixth sense.
Yeah, like we've just been feeling it for a long time. So we're very well versed, you know, and we're very well, you know, we're able to articulate it in different ways, i.e. look at our music, you know, a lot of black music. That's why I love the music that was chosen in Defy Bloods. Like, it was
really good.
But remove the percussion, remove the rhythm from it and listen to the words. And that song, you know, is a very, very sad song. And it's like, and he's basically pleading, like, look at my humanity.
Change gonna come.
What's going on that's the question. What is going on?
Oh,
you know, like people think that because it has a beat and a rhythm that is danceable and that makes you smile, that it is all, roses and daisies and that it's good. But the lyrics of the song is him really posing a question of like, why is all this happening to us? Like, what is going on here? Why are we getting killed? Why is there brutality? Like, we feel just like how y'all feel. And I think that's like one of the main issues with the Black Lives Matter movement. It's like people think that this whole political thing, when no, we're just saying that Black Lives Matter. Like, what's going on? Black lives, they matter, so they shouldn't be taken. And and that's really like, that's how it goes all full circle.
Yeah. Right.
So,
So to continue with the movie, after the MAGA scene, after the bar scene, they're all talking. I think they're in Vietnam already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
yeah.
the
whole movie pretty much takes place in Vietnam. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're in Vietnam.
Something that Netflix also does.
Yeah.
Does movies in foreign countries, which is really cool.
So they, so obviously they buried gold. They went back to go get it in 2020. So I think it's been like over 50 years.
He served in 71, so it's been like 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. So I think they were trying to go back earlier, but something happened and they kind of didn't want to come back, not only because they were there for the war, but because they lost one of their brothers, one of the Bloods. But they ended up coming back just to reclaim it. And the country is so different from the war, from back in Vietnam. There was no KFC, there was no McDonald's, there was no Starbucks, and now they went back and everything's lit up and they're like, damn, like it's a good thing we invaded Vietnam, because it would have never been like this. Which pretty much capitalism like ended up like infecting Vietnam, and is like, it just sucks. But
interesting, where it's like America lost the war, but capitalism still won.
Yeah,
right.
No, it's a scary thing, man. It's money is very, I mean, like even in this movie, they talk about how the gold can change them. There's a part later on. Oh, I'll get to it in a little bit. But, so yeah, Vietnam has changed. They're there for the gold. They meet with some guy whose dad was in the war, and he's going to like help them navigate to where they want to go and stuff like that. They don't want to tell them that why they're there, because obviously if they tell anybody why they're there, like there's going to be more people like following them and searching for gold and shit like that. So I believe it's the one that was taking pills. I forgot his character's name. I had it right here. Otis. He has a friend in Vietnam that he had, and he meets her because she has a connect for the gold. So when they get the gold, they want to transfer it. And that scene was very interesting too. They have a very interesting conversation when they're having dinner about, back then being in Vietnam and how it was different for both of them, being a woman in Vietnam and being a black man serving in Vietnam, all the obscenities thrown at you, just even though you're trying to, make a change or make a difference. They're talking, and out of nowhere, her daughter walks in, and she doesn't just look Vietnamese, she's Vietnamese and she's black. And obviously right off the bat, I was like, well, that's his daughter, obviously. And she was talking to him how, like, yeah, when she was growing up, like, they like pretty much just, they bullied her, because of her skin color and, being a woman and being Vietnamese, they just called her dirty. And it's just crazy, like how racism isn't just in America, it's also in these other countries, whether it's against black people, whether it's against their own kind, whether, like World War II, Germany against the Jewish people, it comes in all different shapes and forms. And to see that, it was very interesting. But what's your guys' take on that scene, on that scene where they're having dinner, I guess?
I mean, it's kind of expected. I mean, because like if you're out there serving that long, and if you do meet somebody, because I feel like it's pretty common for someone to have like a love child out in like the war. You know what I mean? So I wasn't like caught off guard like too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that it. When I saw that, I knew that okay, every person who's involved is going to hit like a certain trope or a certain like circumstance that is a result of war. You know, you had Paul with he was like really abrasive, so you kind of felt like okay, he's gonna have that PTSD, like he never left kind of feeling. Otis, you know, he seemed like the more sensible one, the more sensitive one. So when it was revealed that he ended up being with a Vietnamese girl and them having a child, and then most likely that story goes, the wife or the woman ends up having that child and not telling, you know, the soldier that that's your child, and having to deal with that, and him being such a sensitive and loving person in general, not being able to love his daughter or know that he has a daughter takes a toll on a person as well, you know. And then you have the other blood who was established as being, you know, he went back and he bought into the system.
Oh yeah,
bought into the capitalism.
Yeah, Eddie.
Like, yeah, you know, I'm spending all this money. I got these car dealerships. I went back and I served and I did my duty, but in doing that, he never really. He still succumbed to the system that was in place. You know, he made bad investments. He thought that the American dream was the American dream, but quickly realized that it wasn't for him, you know, and that if you get careless, you can find yourself in holes that, you know, we'll figure out later on in the movie as we talk about it. But he kind of flexed as him being, you know, the self-made guy when he got back from the war. And then you have like, you know, you always have like the funny guy, you know, the guy who's like in the war. He's like, he's affected, but he doesn't come off as being affected. He's low key like he's not the leader, but he knows what's going on and knows like to be like you know, keep his mind straight. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so just to have those kind of personalities and those kind of tropes, I figured out once I saw that scene. I was like, okay, everybody's gonna have to deal with their own demons throughout this movie in each one of those different ways.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, most definitely. It happens. It all unravels. It's a very long movie. I started watching it. I didn't even know how long it was gonna be. And it got to the halfway point. I was like, oh, I think this is the end. And then I like clicked to see how much time. I was like, damn, there's still an hour. Like, what is going to happen?
Bro, I did the same thing. Literally at like an hour 19 left of the movie, I was like.
That's because they find the gold. Yeah, they find the gold like at that mark. And then you're like, okay, they found the gold. Cool, it's almost over. No.
Nah.
One of the tropes that I feel like that they squeezed in that like, I feel like it could have been used for maybe one of the other Bloods was his son, like ended up coming. Yeah. And I thought that was like a little forced. It was kind of like weird. I was like, wait, who's this guy? Like,
yeah, it was a little random, but and he was wearing a Morehouse shirt. I didn't know what that was. I was like, Morehouse, what is Morehouse? And I looked it up during the movie. I was like, oh yeah, Morehouse is.
I almost went to Morehouse.
A black university, correct? Yeah. Yep.
Is all boys black university.
Oh, okay. All boys. I thought it was just mixed. But yeah, it was very random.
Probably have a little bit more co-ed that's involved, but they have a sister school called Spelman.
Oh, I've heard of Spelman.
All of the girls go, and a lot of like Morehouse and Spelman activities, extracurricular activities, they combine, but the actual campus is predominantly all men. You know, all your classes are just in there with men. You know, I'm sure that it's kind of changed a little bit now, just because we're in 2020.
Mm-hmm. But I definitely wanted to talk about that a little bit. You know, like you said, it's kind of weird they squeeze it in, but he's always been worried about his dad. You know, he says it like, my dad has nightmares at night. You know, he was telling his friends and stuff like that, and he's not the same. Like I'm worried about him. That's why I followed him out here. Obviously his dad didn't want him there. His dad hates him. You know, he's he's never been really capable of loving his son. And it was kind of sad to me, that you go through a war, you come back and you hate your family, and obviously I don't know if
you love war.
Yeah, pretty much, and destruction, like honestly, if they would have like kept all the soldiers in Vietnam, I'm pretty sure he would have stayed, but yeah, it was pretty messed up. Pretty much he meets, and then it's random, he meets people who in that bar, people who defuse or get rid of landmines that are still left over from the war.
And that was like a pretty like political thing that I feel like Spike put in there, but it's like one of those causes that not many people think about, that there are groups of people that are doing and putting their life on the line trying to find these mines that have been left over and buried that like constantly go off. And we saw like with kids that are just like playing around in their backyards or in the forest or something like that, they end up stepping on a landmine and it goes off, and next thing you know, you're losing limbs. Like, that was just crazy that they threw that in there.
Yeah, no, that was pretty crazy. And then obviously, since he was in Vietnam already, he went along with them to help them out. And what was next? Oh, they go to meet the Frenchman too. After he gets the plug, they go to meet the Frenchman. Pretty much, Frenchman is a banker, and he's going to be the one. They take the gold too, so that he can deposit the money in like offshore accounts and pretty much just convert it so that way they can divide it all and take it back home.
You know what's so crazy, man? Like when you think of like offshore accounts and stuff like that, you almost think, being like a kid in America, you think of like James Bond, or you think of like some like secret agent, like, oh, he got the offshore account, or like some like elite thing. But that's like for it to be offered to them, it made me feel like, oh, so this is just like a common thing. That like people just have to know what the system is. And since you work in banking, you know what I mean? But like to find out how that system is in place, where it's like, yeah, like you can open an offshore account in this particular country because you'll be able to get transactions from them over and over again.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know like what's going on, or it'll be tax free, or all these other things. It's like, that's some wild loopholes.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you think about all the politicians that probably have offshore accounts, off the books and stuff like that.
Yeah, but not even just politicians, just people who know to do that. I feel like a neighbor can have it. You know what I mean? Like if they have enough money, or if they've inherited enough money, and like the way that they're living is almost a front, because they have actual money that they're able to go on vacation with, or to give to their kids with, or to start a business with, or to do these different things.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So pretty much they're trying to make an offshore account. They got to get the gold first. They don't even know how much gold they have. They kind of have an estimate. So they don't trust him, and then he doesn't trust them. But eventually they just settle. They're like, all right, if we're going to do this, we have to trust each other, or else it's not going to work. So they end up going to the guy who's going to help him lead to the forest. And on the way there, they get on a boat that pretty much it kind of reminds me of Italy, like there's marketplaces where you're just on a boat and stuff like that. Before they get on the boat, I'm really bad with names. Otis's wife, or not wife, baby mama, gives him a gun, and she mentions, just in case, because money or gold does things to people, like it can change you, so here's this just in case. And I mean, it's just crazy that she really had to give him that, because it's true, like stuff like that really changes you.
He accepted it.
I mean, yeah, that too. Like these are you went to war with these guys, like I think even just the fact that they just went back just for it just is enough to show you what it can do to you. They don't even know if it's there still. They're hoping it's there.
Yeah.
And they get there, later on a little bit, and it's not there. Well, it is, but it's not. So yeah, they're going through the marketplace, and they get to this guy who wants to sell Paul a chicken, and Paul does not want to buy a chicken. Obviously, nobody wants to buy no fucking chicken.
Well, like reiterate that it's a live chicken, not just like.
Oh yeah, it's a live
chicken.
It's a live chicken. That's the thing. Like this guy is trying to sell him a live chicken, and Paul's like, "Get away from me!" And he's telling him in Vietnamese, "No, no, no," over and over and over.
Well, like he started off cool, calm, and content. Like he was just like, "No, like no, thank you, Mister." Like, "No, I'm good." But the guy kept pressing.
Yeah, he was just pressing. He's like, "Come on, man, buy the chicken. Like, do you want to buy it?" And then he starts freaking out. Like the PTSD kicks in, and I think I forget what he calls him.
He calls him a gook.
Yeah, he calls him a gook, and I was like, "Oh wow!" Like he actually said that, and I think that's when the guy got mad, and he started yelling in English, like, "You killed my father! Like you killed my mother!" I think he said, and it was
GI,
like,
GI.
Yeah, they started yelling GI. It's crazy that. I mean, we forget that the Vietnamese people lost a lot more than what we lost.
Right.
You know, they lost families. We lost a few men. You know, not saying that that's like equal or more, but like
but the war wasn't on our soil; it was on them.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Like they pretty much lost their home. Like going back to what I said earlier, like there's KFCs, there's Starbucks, there's McDonald's everywhere. There's no mom and pop businesses flourishing from the Vietnamese economy. It's Americans flourishing off Vietnamese economy, and like it's crazy, you know. Like especially on that point when he's saying all that, it makes you realize that the Five Bloods aren't the only ones going through it. The whole country of Vietnam has been going through it for 50 years, you know. So.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
50 years isn't a long time. I think that's one of the main things that this movie really told me is that it's not a long time for all of these things that have happened. You know, like it's people think that Martin Luther King being assassinated was like so long ago. It's like no, like he was marching with our parents, you know what I mean? And like our parents were alive when that was happening. And the people who are marching against him are still alive, you know what I mean, during this time. And so, you know, I think that it's just so interesting how they show the different effects in the movie, you know. And one thing I want to do, because the movie is long and we can, you know, keep talking about it, but I want to encourage everybody who's listening to check it out. Because there is a second half of the movie.
It's very, very long, extensive.
But one thing I want to ask for you guys is just like what was like a part in the movie that you felt was like the strongest, you know, for you? I'll send it over to Sincere.
The strongest?
Yeah, just like a part in the movie that you're just like, whoa, all right, that made you like feel something.
No, I mean, I think we just touched it. Like I think that first scene when like it started out with the chicken, you kind of get like the real sense, especially not so much like the PTSD, but like these dudes, even though they serve together and they're brothers, like they're gonna be quick to like even turn on each other. Like even when they found the gun, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they found the gun on him, and they thought he was gonna turn. Like that just shows how like even though like I've known these dudes for years, these are my brothers, I've served with them. But I still can't trust them, or like you don't know that, or it's not so much that you can't trust them, but like in the back of your head, if you have PTSD or you don't know who to trust, or if you have like these nightmares, then of course like you're gonna feel that, especially if you find a gun on one of your homies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the parts for me was when Paul's son, what's his name, David, stepped on the mine,
Me too,
on the
bro.
landmine. He realized like, wow, like I can lose my son. Like I can't lose my son, you know, like he started freaking out. He started trying to find ways. And that's when the bomb unit ran. It was so weird how they just showed up. It was funny. I was like, okay, what are the odds? But and, that part, he was like, all right, like I'm going to save you, you know, like, don't worry. I got you. And like, believe in yourself. Like you're a
The
Morehouse.
soldier kicked in.
Yeah, like you're a Morehouse. So what schools do you go to? Like, tell me what schools do you go to? And then they figure out how to get him off. And when they do, like, there's a sense of relief. They
Yes.
hug, and you see, like, okay, he does love his son. It's not just it's you know, it's hard for him, but it took him all that up to that point to realize it. But obviously after that he breaks again. But I think that's just the PTSD and not actually him, you know. So
I think he did a wonderful job of showcasing that scene in particular. The scream that he let out at the end of relief when he was able to get his son was very impactful for me. I was just like, man, like that did it for me. That did it for me for sure. I was like, that was good acting. That was just a great scene in a great situation that's horrible, you know, and to get out of there, you know, relatively safely is like a miracle in itself, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of showed how important the other group's work is with the landmines and everything like that. So I definitely want to talk. I feel like we're going to be talking more about these kinds of movies and this it's kind of like we're going to see a lot more in-depth situations, kind of examined more. I love the history aspect of the movie, all of the history kind of being correct, and the dates and the times of everything happening and who was doing what. So I definitely encourage all of our listeners and people who are watching to check out the movie. It's lengthy, but it doesn't feel that way until you like think about the length of the movie. It's like it's a very engaging movie. It's not like it's boring or anything like that. You'll just watch it. So just make sure to just have some time to watch it. But very briefly, I do want to get to just the current time of what we have going on. I know that we have so much to talk about because we haven't been together for a while, and we may have to save that for another pod for sure. But just want to talk about how all of that relates to what's going on right now. I just want to encourage everybody to get involved, to do your research, to look at what's happening, to look at the dates of things happening. Where's your history coming from? Correct your own history and the things that you've been led to believe. It is time to unlearn some of those things because they were taught to us in a way that was meant to make us not feel responsible for what's going on. But all of those things directly correlate with what's going on today in our society. So I just encourage everybody who is listening to get involved. You know, we can't afford to not be involved anymore. I think that's like the takeaway from this particular podcast is you have to get involved now. You have to look for ways to get involved. Doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, doesn't matter. Like you have to get involved in your community. You are responsible for that. That is the price of freedom.
Right.
You know, for being able to be free in this country, we have responsibilities that are necessary, and we can no longer run away from those responsibilities anymore. So it's very important that we dial in and that we make this country better than when our ancestors and when our parents and when our leaders were going through these things.
Yeah, and it's not even for us. It's more so for our future. You know, right now we're not going to see direct change. You know, like Nurik said, we want things instantly, but this is not going to be an instant thing. This is going to take time. It might take years, you know, and we got to be ready for it. You know, like the riots, the bus protests that they had for Rosa Parks and all that. I think that lasted like a year and half a month. You know, so I mean, obviously times are different. Social media makes things go faster. So who knows? It might be less than that, but we can't expect it to, you know. And also one thing that I do want to bring up right now that's kind of just a little off topic is it's going to be very strange in the future. Like you said, in Vietnam, a lot of babies were being born and they didn't understand what we're going through. And right now, there's a lot of babies and a lot of kids growing up that are not understanding what's going through. So really, it's for our future, and we have to educate ourselves now and continue to educate. So that way, when they do get older, we can educate them so they can understand the same way we do, you know? So
definitely.
Yeah, kind of like when Rick said, all this, it isn't political, it's moral. You know what I mean? So don't get twisted in what people are saying when it comes to politics and whatnot. Like, if you strongly feel like if you have a voice and obviously like you feel some type of way about what's going on, don't be afraid to speak out. Because you got people that'll back you up more than people that are going to tear you down. You know what I mean?
And if there is people tearing you down, you know, then they shouldn't be in your circle no more. Or if you want to change their opinion, then have those conversations with them. You know,
and yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, is the amount of followers and friends I've lost from like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Like, I could really care less about the numbers. Like, it doesn't bother me because those people shouldn't have been there in the first place. You know what I mean? Because that's not what I stand for. It's not what, it's not what I believe in. Like, if you strongly oppose against like Black Lives Matter or equality, then like you shouldn't be in my feed anyways, or you shouldn't follow me anyways. You know what I mean? So don't get caught up in the numbers. Don't get caught up in like the memories of people you grew up with or even family, because you see a lot of families tearing apart right now because they could be like an interracial relationship or someone posted Black Lives Matter and you have your family antagonizing you on socials. Like, it's not worth it. Like, don't get caught up in that. You're your own person. If you feel moral about what's going on and you don't like it, speak out against it. And then just, if you have to cut those ties, it's better for you and the world and family you're trying to create.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, like, find ways to contribute in your community. You know, don't be going to LA to go protest if you're from the IE.
Right.
Like, I strongly believe either protesting your city or just tackling your community issues is way better than just trying to go to LA and take pictures and come back and
don't be a clout chaser.
You know? So there's a lot of ways there's a lot of things you could do in your community right now. But with that being said, we will be talking about stuff like this a lot more. This isn't just a one-off episode. We'll be back in the studio very soon. So we'll be back to our normal in a studio. And follow us on Soundflick Pod, donate to our Patreon, and Skywalker Mike, I'm out. That's cool.
No, Rick, that's cool. Just closing thoughts. This has been episode 26. Thank you so much for everybody who has tuned in. Make sure and like Skywalker Mike said, follow us on all of our socials. Keep up with the things that we are promoting, both individually and collectively. And stay safe out there. Stay safe. Work smart. Talk to your family. Talk to your friends. Be courageous during this time. We're going to need a lot of courage in order to get out of what's going on and to establish a new normal that is acceptable for every person, from every race, from every creed, from every situation. So thank you so much for everybody who tuned in. Thank you, Productive Culture. If you were trying to start a podcast, definitely reach out to Productive Culture. They are the leading podcast curators in the Inland Empire and in the LA area as well. I'm going to say that. And so definitely reach out to them. Tell them Soundflick Podcast sent you. And we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.